Welcome to AI Marketing Mastery. I'm your host, Casey Watkins. Today we are having Ty-Shane Howell. We're excited to have you on. Ty, do you want to give us a little bit of info about you?
Sure. So obviously AI is the future. It's the shift of wealth, the transition of wealth. Anybody can hop on board. Background, previous addict, so I'm healed now through incarceration. So basically, best way to put it is AI can equalize anybody's journey and starting point in life. College dropout, dropped out 2 weeks after the GPT-3 came out. And that right there is the succinct version of what brings us here and who I am and why AI is such a pivotal mechanism in anybody's life to, recreate your life.
All right, so I want to go into your personal life before we get into the AI side. I know that you said you were incarcerated, so I did a little bit of work for a couple of years working for a company that did tablets for prisons to keep people up on technology so when they got out, they could actually jump back into normal life easier. How did your incarceration affect your life? Because I know a lot of people that once they go into jail, that's their whole system for the rest of their life. So what happened to get you to break out of that repeating cycle?
So that's awesome. I love the whole tablet thing, where just to give a insight into that, there's a lot of cool things that are rolled out into prisons. But the thing they don't tell you is they don't give access to those to most of the prison. They usually give it to a small subset. I know of tablets, but I never got to use a tablet. Like the prisons I was in, they maybe allowed maybe 2% of the whole prison access to tablets. And so what they call it smearing in the nonprofit world, where they'll be like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. And there'll be governors that do it, mayors that do it. And what they don't tell you is, yes, they're rolling these programs out, but they're not actually giving access to the majority. And so they leave out the important part that they only roll out limited access to a very limited few, and then the rest don't get to benefit from those things. So the prisons that I was at did not have those for majority, although they did have the tablet program for literally a couple hundred inmates out of 10,000 plus. And so since then, I'm pretty sure that's become a little bit more mainstream, and it's absolutely amazing. And so what got me out, I did a 3.5 year termination. So I did 3.5 years for a $1,000 theft, and I was able to get a termination out of it. Literally begged, because once you understand parole and you understand incarceration, there's a reason 77% come back once released. It's a pretty deep psychological web of dysfunction, of programming. And so I ended up meeting my birth mom, and that's when everything changed. That's an entire story of its own. I was literally about to get my car repoed. My phone got shut off, and I lost my job. And at this point, I was an IV drug user. And so it was all downhill from there. And so I just up and left and drove cross country, and I didn't have license, didn't have car insurance. I just up and left to go meet my birth mom, and at $13, and it's just wild. I just did these little crowdsourcing apps, and that journey showed me that literally you don't have to have what you need to get to the destination in life. You just have to be willing to move. And that's when I got the first glimpse of that, probably I would say a secret mindset. And so that's why imperfect action is better than no action, because God can't realign or can't maneuver a stagnant object. It has to be moving, just like a car. Change directions unless it's motion. So meeting my birth mom and that journey right there, ended up getting into the Ohio State University. And I just left because I'm like, crap, my car's about to get repoed. My phone got shut off, lost my job. I'm hooked on drugs. This is gonna be all bad. There's only one direction this is going. So I took extreme action.
Yeah.
And meeting my birth mom. So she was only 13 when I was born. She is a victim. And as the victim of a victim, being taken away was a blessing. And it wasn't until I met her that literally my entire perspective in life got shifted upside down. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually loved. Because she didn't just lose me, she lost all of her kids. Still doing meth at 40 years old. And it's nothing against her because she's doing pretty well statistically if you look at the story, even though it's not the perfect miracle. I was basically bound to become a spitting image of her. And I still did, even though I was taken away, which is funny. Yeah. And so meeting her, getting that closure, being able to have empathy for her, that's when the transformation really started. And then I was getting into the Ohio State University. And I had to fight to get in too. So I learned some pretty hardcore lessons pretty fast. From number one, turning $13 into an 1,800-mile cross-country road trip to meet my birth mom, just to try and get sober. I was like, crap, if I meet her and I don't get sober, at least I met my birth mom. But if I meet her and I ended up getting sober 6 months later after meeting her, got to college. That's when everything started to shift. When you're incarcerated, your world is this small and the possibilities are this small. And nothing in that environment or transforms your belief in yourself that you can do things in your life. For example, the average income of somebody that's released from prison is $14,500. So that's all you've got to look forward to, generally speaking. That's what your life is going to be when you get out. So it's not super exciting. It's contrastually, oh, wow, this is better than being locked up. But then it's like the hard reality of, oh, crap, this is really hard. Can't get a job, can't get good housing. Yeah. Up until recently, up until 2020, you were basically legally blocked from college. Legislatively prevented access to education. It's very hard to get in if you have a criminal record. And so getting into college, and that was post-2020. It was in COVID. I wouldn't have gotten in if it weren't for COVID. So that's fact right there. That's when I started to see, oh, wow, there's this huge wide world out there. And I would say where a lot of the magic happened. And it's like, oh, wow, someone gave me an opportunity. So I started college hooked on crack. I still got a 3.3 GPA hooked on crack. So that's the funny part of it. Wow. And basically the mentality was like, I can make mistakes. I can be imperfect. But if I can just stay on this track for 4 years, I can get somewhere. I don't know where, but I can get somewhere. And that's the mentality that got me off crack. That's the mentality that eventually led me to be a very proud dropout to jump into AI. So the college added the education. So I studied molecular genetics and I studied sociology. So I got to learn a lot about the world. I got to learn a lot about human behavior. Getting sober, it's a lot of internal introspection, and it's a lot of very vulnerable, transparent analysis of yourself. And so all those together, and in my hindsight, how do I say this? When you can vilify something more, and that becomes like your old self, there's something about that shift that happens. So it's like, oh, that's why I was failing because the system for me to fail. So humans function like this. That's why we're not allowed access to housing. That's why we're not allowed access to good education. And that's why we're not allowed access to good jobs. And so when you start to understand how humans function, the survival mentality, label theory, Maslow, you're like, oh, so like, it didn't matter how hard I tried. I was basically, and the data proves it, going to fail regardless of how much effort I put into it. And so once you start to have those to education, you're like, these mother frickers. And so that little bit of spite has driven me through some tough times. I'm not going to lose this battle. And so that's a little bit all over the place, but it was those series of events, the childhood trauma, the education, getting an opportunity finally, that opportunity giving me some sort of forward vision where it's like, I don't have to be perfect. If I can just stay on this track, something good will happen. And something good did happen. And it required me to drop out. And now AI is more valuable than a college degree. And so everything worked out amazingly well, rough, not smooth. And so that's kind of been the gist of the journey. And just like through that journey, it just basically shows anybody that where you are now doesn't dictate where you will be. Through God, anything is possible. And then more importantly, your purpose is created through your pain. And your story can inspire, motivate, and help other people. More importantly, when people can see themselves in you, they can see themselves outside of themselves. And it's one thing to look in the mirror all the time and be like the guilt, the shame, the regrets, and all of that. But when you can take yourself and throw that reflection onto someone else and be like, that guy is doing it. And then sometimes it's like, oh, well, if he got it through that, and this is what I have, this is what I'm dealing with, why can't I? Why not me? I think it's important to find things that are worse than what. So when I look at people with cancer, when I look at people with abilities, I'm just like, I'm so glad. I'm grateful for my overdoses. I'm grateful for the drug addiction. I'm grateful to be a rape baby. I'm grateful for all these different things because you have no control over any of that. At least with childhood traumas and addictions and all these things, like you can hit a point where you say enough is enough. But if you're fighting these things that are biological and you don't have access to, like, in America, you're not going to get healed. But if you go to Germany or like these other countries, Panama and all these other countries, if you can't afford to go there, you could be pretty screwed. Nothing you can do about it. And so there's just so much power in seeing yourself in others, but more importantly, too, just realizing like, you could have it way worse. People have it worse, man. And so that's kind of the journey that brought me to today. Very imperfect journey, but it's better than being stagnant.
So what got you into the AI world? And because I know you are killing it in AI marketing and your cold emails. That's insane.
So when I wrote a paper, as soon as I wrote a college paper with GPT, this degree is useless. And so that was about it was December of 2022. And then I dropped out January 10th of 2023. And so that's where it started. Before that, I had taken Grant Cardone's 10X marketing course. So it was like July of 2022, I took that 10X marketing course. He said something that made sense to me. No matter what happens with the economy, everybody needs marketing. So arguably, they need it more. And then obviously, when people pull back in a drought or an economic downturn, what does that mean? There's more blue ocean through marketing. So you don't have to fight for as much of your share of the market. In a sense, you actually that's when the smart people turn up their marketing. When everybody pulls back, they turn up. And it's just like when you see a positive and a negative type of a deal. And so that's kind of where the shift into marketing started. And then when I dropped out, it was because of AI. And then marketing and AI are the same now. Marketing is AI. Every single marketing process, every single optimized copy, to automating processes, to doing research, to spying on competitors' ads to see what's working, reverse engineering what's worked. It's all AI driven now. And so that's when the shift started, when I dropped out. And basically Clay.com. So Clay, they make it easy. It's like Google Sheets on steroids. It's like Make.com and Zapier, but in table form. And that's kind of where the brunt of the AI has come from, for lead generation, for data aggregation, for prospect research, but through automated workflows. So cold email was a happen chance. A client came to me and said, hey, I got this list of 2,000 names and I got their emails from an event. What can we do with this? So I did some research. I'm like, oh, well, we can send them cold emails. And so that's where the cold email journey started. And just important marketing lesson. You can't hop around from a million things. You can't be building funnels, Google My Business, SEO. Like you can't be doing all these different things. You need to be known for something. You kind of got to put your metaphorical stake in the ground. And so that's what cold email became. And it was aligned with the AI evolution. And so through all marketing channels like SEO now, you can programmatically create all sorts of content and rank for all sorts of words without even having to. So everything in marketing is somehow, enhanced by AI. And then obviously ADHD syndrome. I played with everything. 2023 is when I digitally cloned my first client. 2023 was when I replicated my voice through 11 labs. And so if you're not on AI, you're basically screwed. Think if you give AI to an employee, for example, they do more get paid. If you give AI native, somebody who gets to create their value, name their value, and then go meet the market where they need to, just like the 99-cent bottle of water and the bottle of water. It's the same water, but this one's like, hey, we're going to take this market over here. We're going to sell it for $3.99, $4.99. And the other person's like, hey, we're going to go to this. We're going to focus on volume. We're going to focus on the who. And so right now is the same concept. Use AI as an employee, you don't make more money. Entrepreneur, we get to create new solutions. We get to still charge money, amplify, multiply, replicate ourselves. You got to do a lot more. It's so important if you're in marketing. If you're not creating with it, you're nailing the nails in your casket. And so that's why I'm so big on AI. All of our cold email, the way we aggregate data, the way that we, do research, the way that we, at scale dynamically create messaging, value proposition fits, and make everything fit the recipient instead of, the usual spray and pray. It just changes the game. It gives you more leverage. It allows you to smoke and mirror a manual email versus something that was obviously sent to 1 million people. And so that the personalized experience is just enhanced through AI, just like something as simple as a chatbot. You can personalize the experience and you don't have to be there and you don't understand the way you would have had to in the past. So now you can add this mechanism to your business without actually having to hire somebody. And so now especially you're able to provide better service, needing to necessarily have had the revenue required to have done it in the past. And
so how did you learn how to do this? Because you're integrating a bunch of different technologies to do your cold emails.
So the way the cold email stuff works is because we use APIs for everything. And so it taught me how to connect stuff. And so it's really interesting how just through learning cold email, through basically it's like a crash course on just how to connect, how to stack text. And then it forces you to learn different courses. For example, if I do on my list, I identify that you have a YouTube video and I go to your YouTube channel, I transcribe so then I can use that video's transcripts in the messaging to make you feel as if, and now I have already done half the job at reducing the friction of getting you to hear what I have to say. You might want to call it principle of reciprocity, just helping someone feel seen and heard, whatever it is. And so just the problem solve you go through now with cold email to find these different signals, it mind to think outside the box. One of my best case studies, we had a 6% conversion rate on a cold email campaign. And what we did is we mentioned podcast appearances. We didn't listen to hundreds of podcasts, but our email would know as if we listened to your podcast. And then we use that in the messaging. And then we use that to transition into the value proposition to get them to take the desired action. And we got a 6% conversion rate on a cold email campaign. That's unheard of. Yeah. And so the only reason we could do that is with these automated process with AI and the intelligence that it brings to, how do I say this? It's one thing to just scrape a website, but it's legitimately scrape a website and say, hey, go to this website, search all the pages. We're looking for this, this, and this. If you can't find this, you got to go to Google afterwards because you can't find it there. Then go to Google and then search. And then if you can't find it, then just output N/A. And you couldn't do that just a few years ago, but now you can. And so with the cold email stuff, it just comes down to, how do I say this? I would argue right now that because of AI agents, it's like AI agentify all of our processes. how can we intelligently create little hierarchies of swarms agents to go do our research, go qualify, and how do we now create multiple different mechanisms in an AI sequence that's not necessarily as narrow or manual as it is now. And so that's the next step, and that's what a lot of the leaders in cold email are doing now. So I'm not the best I can. There's a lot of people doing some really great stuff I haven't even reached the levels of.
All right, so speaking of that, who would you consider your mentors / influencers that you follow or get info from? Because for me, you're one of them, Austin Armstrong, Jonathan Mast. So who are you? Who are yours?
So this goes from multiple fronts. So I just filed a new company, 10x AI Advice. I did that. It's not the same, but Julia McCoy is number one. Her journey needs to adopt AI. And so her journey, and first, AI is not going to take over copyright. Next move, she realized, oh crap, I was wrong. And then she transitioned. And from there, she built up her AI knowledge and experience and went to first movers. And so we can all learn so much from that. The moment that it clicks in your head, you can pivot, and you should pivot. And so Joy, number one, hands down, she inspires me as one of our competitors, but we're not actually different than her, but it's built kind of from what I saw her do. One right there. Then obviously Jay Hunter. So he's just, how do I say this? He's an action-taking AI guy. Austin Armstrong too. Now you want to look at Eric Nowoslawski of Growth Engine X. You want to look at Patrick Spilchowski, and he owns The Kiln. And then you want to look at Michael Lieber. He runs Cold IQ. And then there's obviously like Josh Whitfield. There's a lot of people in that space that are just doing the most amazing things. Brandon Charleston. So even in my AI cold email course, and I'm like, listen, your next step is to go to LinkedIn, search all these people up. Here's the links to their profile. And you need to go click that notification icon. Scroll Facebook. You're basically going to get expressing feelings and da-da-da-da. Follow mine. I'm going to emotionally get some people to go off because that's just the marketer in me. But when you go to LinkedIn, people are giving away everything to build their audiences. It's a completely different ecosystem. It's a completely different platform. And the way the strategies used to be on LinkedIn are completely different from X and completely different from Facebook. And so from Eric Nowoslawski to Brandon Charleston, Josh Whitfield, Eric Nowoslawski, Patrick Spilchowski, Michael Lieber, all of them, you go to LinkedIn for them because they literally give away everything that they're doing. And then in the process of following those people, you're going to find other people who engage with their stuff, and they're going to be giving you everything in workflow that will go and scrape Google Maps for you, and it'll find everything that you need for you just on autopilot. Like, we're giving that stuff away. Just a template you got to copy. They'll just say, and I'll send it to you in your DMs. And I have so many of these things that I've collected from people that I haven't even used yet, but I need to know so I can reverse how the heck they're doing this. And so LinkedIn is where most people that are in AI, in marketing need to be, because the process of building like market share of attention is completely different on LinkedIn than anywhere else. So those are the like front runners. Austin Armstrong. The thing about is, what did he do? He was running a how do you say it? A vertical video agency. Came along, and his next step was to put myself.
Yeah.
So he like just been pivoting, and just what I just said, like only way to survive AI, self out of business. New technology to make your old self literally like now the AI. If you stay, the people who are taking the AI to put you will take you out of business. But if you can just put your old, then you can weather the storm. And so Austin Armstrong is real big on that. From everything he's done with Syllabi, it's just crazy what he's been able to do. And so that's the whole point of Syllabi. It was like, how can I create a tool that makes it so people don't have to go pay for the services that I used to charge them thousands of dollars a month. Yep. Now they can do it for hundreds of dollars a month.
Yeah.
So there's just so much power in those stories. Like Jeff J. Hunter, what did he do as soon as Operator came out? He sold his VA agency. because you saw what was happening. Like you follow these people and you just see the mentality they move. You can internalize those, as applicable to your own journey and the way that you perceive your next actions. So obviously you're not doing the same thing as them, but the value, how they move, because you don't figures by doing right.
Yeah.
Like when I interviewed 6-7 figure marketers, not a single one of them got there with agency model. 7 figures with an agency model. By not chasing churn, they were past 7 figures, every single one of them.
Wow.
And so I'm just saying that there's so much value. So yeah, so that's my long-winded answer to that. So if you don't know Julia, you got to go follow them, Austin and Jeff, and then there's other people.
Yep. All right. So with AI changing so rapidly, where do you think it's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, this is where I'm one of those doomsdayers is going. So, hey, what are they calling it? Is that what I think Perplexity? I have the screenshot. I'm on the wait list. Perplexity's got their operator competitor coming out. I'm on the wait list, and it's the GPT operator, the agent, or browser-based agent technology right there. Especially once it makes it so it's open source and you can host it on the cloud and have it. That right there is because we live in a digital world. It doesn't matter what job you do, most of your job. And if the best minds that do what you do have been up in the world, and now every action that is taken digitally, so AI can now send emails, messages, scan, analyze, process data, organize data. Once you add in the autonomous, locally run mechanisms, bookkeepers. I'm just saying, my AI tax professional and a bookkeeper. It can call me if there's a discrepancy. It can process data. It can literally reverse everything a bookkeeper does back to HR, finance, operations, marketing, everywhere. So that's why AI forms. And you'll see how the hierarchy works. So you got your director, you got your manager, all the purposes, potential outputs. What happens at the top and how it goes down to the bottom will dictate which of the smaller level agents can do, just like in a business. Yeah. And so I see the operator-based technology, especially that right there is going to give business owners the opportunity to literally eradicate overhead. They're literally going to eradicate overhead. And we don't need to be able to do it. We don't have to wait till AGI is here to be able to do that. Chances are they're going to coexist. As AI get better. So I see in 3 to 5 years, increase in homelessness. We're going to see boomers probably be the hardest impacted based on the logical gap and the speed of technologically. So just because you see the gap doesn't mean that you have the fundamental aptitudes to adapt. And so the time that it would take you to adapt, you may not be able to move fast enough. And so I see that's the dark side of years that I see happening. So it's just like the storm before the rain. You look at the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, we have more jobs now. It wasn't like that at first. And now we have, you follow the robot companies. Guess Elon Musk wants 10 billion robots by 2040. And you know what their plan is, right? They're going to have robots. So that we weren't able to do during the Industrial Revolution. And so even though there are limitations, so anytime it's a TAM product, demand. Only make so much time. Like when Neuralink comes out, it's only going to be available to the uber wealthy first because they can't make enough chips. And so supply and demand, the price will be high, and then it won't have the competitive edge with it. So with AI, it's going to be the same with robots and everything. They're coming out you're not going to see them in socioeconomic class's house. They're not going to see a robot when they only make $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Reflection of how much they do their time. So they only do their time, which means that there's a mindset problem. And so can empower humanity, but up until then, it's going to be a rocky ride for a lot of people. And so it's my forecast. So the next 3 to 5 years, I think robots are going to be, I think the robotic trend is the next thing to happen. We're going to have construction crews that are 80% robot. And basically whether they actually reduce the prices or not. Part of things I'm getting into, like my next idea, the next business I just filed is, can we speed up the integration of robots? So like I see the next thing, AI. Well, the next thing after that is the physical AI, and that's these robots. And so there's going to be displacement amongst, just think of old Betty, 60, who used to be a secretary. Well, you don't need her anymore. High level employee that can do her job. So you don't even need Betty anymore. So a poor 60-year-old Betty's useless on the market now. That's going to continue to multiply. And so we're being an AI, running high level agencies. We're replacing roles that used to require a human. Okay.
Yeah.
Just because a business can't afford it, but they're replacing, they would have been able to afford it once they reach that next level. So like level of displacement that's happening right now isn't anybody you quantify, because they're so far removed from those people. Like, I don't know 60-year-old Bettys who are secretary. I know there's millions of them out there. So my projection on that is we're gonna have fully autonomous digital AIs running entire computers, running the internet. And they're going to be just like with the APIs and all that stuff. They're going to be able to connect to anything. They're going to be connecting to your QuickBooks. They're going to be connecting to your CRM. They're going to be going to the AirDrop. They're going to be everywhere. And you're going to have of these. And that's what a business is going to be, swarms of AI agents. And like saying, ability to click on a browser, looks, doing all that that's going to be the game changer. And with theirs, the waiting list is probably the next week. If you follow kind of the AI evolution cycle, Operator, Perplexity, and then Claude's going to come out with one, then Gemini 2.0 is going to get theirs, and then DeepSeek's going to come out with their open source version. So now we have this predictable that no longer requires one company to evolve a product 6 times. The competitor does, like Grok 3. They couldn't release it unless they knew it was better than everything else that existed.
Yeah.
There's a standard. Anytime that they release a new model, it must have, than the previous for it to work. And so that's the new standard. So anytime anyone comes out with something, it's getting better and better. DeepSeek came out of nowhere, completely shifted pricing models, completely that reasoning is done. That came from left field. It came out of, So like there's predictable yet unpredictable evolutionary cycle to AI, and faster and faster and faster. Sonnet 3.7 just came out. People being what would have taken days that used to take months in hours. So like on 2020, 22 to 2024, like it's already AI is evolving at like rate of the entire last year in just the first few months. And it's going to continue getting faster and faster. Quantum computing. Got quantum. Obviously, the cat's not out of the box yet, but they have the and they're probably coupling it behind the scenes with some of the stuff that they're building and doing. But once that's available to the public, what are the possibilities there? So like is one like in 5 years, who knows where we'll be, man?
Because it's seen NVIDIA, I believe it's NVIDIA is putting out mini computer that's specifically designed to run AI, and it's just like a little box, like a little Raspberry Pi size. And I'm like, that's just to have your own little personal desktop AI processor is going to be insane. So that's going to be crazy. It's going to grow faster and faster. All right, so what should
the middle class is about to get around. The middle class is going to get eradicated through all this.
Yeah.
So just for anyone listening, you've got to get into the AI race or you will become the bottom.
Yeah.
It's buts or whats. And early adopters always have the advantage.
Yep. How would you suggest somebody jump in and get started with AI?
Number one, urgency. You need to understand this technology. So there's a gap in innovation and adoption. Gap is your best friend, but this gap is shrinking. So like next business, our goal option. So if I'm thinking it and I don't have all this billions of dollars like other people do, I'm pretty sure they're thinking it too. Yeah. Number one, what are the stakes? If you can make those stakes a reality, you move a little bit faster. And number two, I just think what it does is take your existing past, what you were doing before, and apply that to AI. When you AIify what you build off of what you've already built. So you don't necessarily notion If you were a bookkeeper, for example, okay, can I apply AI to? Can I amplify and specialists to the bookkeeping based on what I like? What are those little edges that I have based on industry knowledge that I can go take to AI? Just learning the different. One of the biggest red flags I see right now is people like, do you know language learning models have different pros and cons? Just like you got a group of friends, they're all really smart, but they all have different smarts and they have different smarts. That's how all these different models are, from like deep research to the thinking. For create that's like versus for more research or putting something that's maybe more official. And they all have the different pros and cons. And then how do I say? So I guess I don't really know what like thing is, but it's how do I say this? If you can apply, I think there's less resistance to comprehension as higher, I think it fills in a lot of those gaps of like a new technology or a new learning curve. If I'm working construction and I've always used a bobcat, dig holes, doesn't matter if I'm digging a pool or if I'm, it's the same skill plainly. So it's the same, different machine, but it looks different and it just functions a little bit different, but the outputs are the same. So like to look at it, so like if you're in the payroll industry, okay, how can AI be applied? How can you take what you're currently doing to it? And I think that will expedite, but like if you're not running a business, it's a little bit, how do I say this? This is where we get into the scary area. That knows AI doesn't get paid more. Yeah. All they do is they outcompete. Outcompeting, upskilling, but you're not paid. Okay? You have to understand, you have to make choices here too. You either got to find a way to go create and name your value, or you've got to compete people by understanding, obviously now AI is more valuable than a college degree. Like this is now across the board. Statistically, you are better off with AI experience than you are with a college degree. This is nothing new now. And so even with this AI upscaling, like value is still the same on the market. You're just scaling now. But if you can take that AI and apply it to something that is business LLC and you find a way to monetize it, you actually like opening yourself up to being able to capitalize on your AI skills. That's an important. So I guess for people, it varies. Business, it's about optimizing. If you're an employee, appealing to employers, but getting paid, even though you got to learn new things, or what you were doing before, you AI-ify it and you go to a gap employer isn't feeling.
Yeah. I've got one final question for you. At the end of this whole journey that you're working on, what do you want to be your legacy? I don't mean everybody necessarily created equal. We are created equal, have different functions, but nobody should be restricted. They choose. If they want to create more value for themselves, they should be able to. So American felon, it's been 10 years. That kind of stuff needs to change. The system, it is literally a cash monetization of humans. So politics to be, I want to give voice back to the voiceless. There's 2 million who are the children of justice impacted, whose lives tormented. All for that's built to keep mothers from children and fathers from their families. And when we look at the generational dysfunction that is created dysfunction, it's a ugly. And so that's my angle, man. So to me, and if there's one thing we've learned from Donald Trump, if you have money, anything is possible. All right. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on. We'll have links to all your stuff in the description so people can reach out to you. Again, thank you for coming on. This was very inspiring for me. So kind of little schoolgirl giddy over here just getting to talk to you. So
your heights. I hope to reach your heights. So thank you, man. It's
awesome. Thank y'all. See y'all in the next one.